You talk about patience.
Well, you know, your question is an extension of Alison's question and Lula's question. You know, I mean, briefly, to exercise patience, you have to also exercise a good amount of detachment. And because patience means that satisfying what you're looking for, to find what you're looking for, is far away, hopelessness is going to slowly creep in. And you have to endure that. You have to be patient. You have to kind of put up with it. There are, in Persian we call it maqam-e sabr. Maqam station, sabr is patience. That, at least in the Sufi tradition, it's like a stage you have to, you know, go to. It's a craft. So, I like eclairs. You guys know what eclairs are, right?
Oh,
Stacy?
yes.
You sure you know what?
Mm-hmm.
So, and there's there's this place on college called Market Hall. They're about like $5. The eclairs are really small, and they're not really that good either. But I just like them because it, you know, gets my cholesterol higher, and I'll be more better candidate for a stroke and death and all that. So, how's that, Lula? Hopelessness. So what happens is I like talk to Sarah or I talk to Sophia who likes eclairs and say, Sophia, would you like an eclair? She says, yeah, I like an eclair. In fact, if you don't give me an eclair, I'll be really mad at you. I say, okay, well, let's get in the car, let's go. And so we're talking in the car, not really. She has nothing to say to me. I usually don't have much to say to her either. So I kind of silence her rants and with, like, I don't know, TV here, TV there. And 10 minutes later, it's the highway is kind of open. We get there in 10 minutes. We kind of park the car. And it's nice and sunny usually. It's a really nice environment. First, I like the fact that I am going to Market Hall. It's like a park for the adults. You know, they have like fresh pasta. They have great pizza doughs. You know, great sweets. Bit pricey, but you have all these desires that you didn't have. You know, you go in there and you just want to buy the whole property. You know, I don't need to exercise patience. First, because I enjoy where I'm going. Second, because I enjoy going there with someone whose company I also enjoy. Third, I know where I'm going and I know what they have. That adds more to my enjoyment, you know. It's only like a 15-minute drive, okay? And I'm not going to get lost. I've gone that path plenty of times, okay? And I know exactly what time of the day I should go. I'm not going to go at 7. I'm not going to go at 8. I'm not going to go at 9. I'm not going to go at 10. I'm going to wait until traffic is done. And that's usually after like 10 o'clock. And it's open till about, I don't know, 6 or 7. The shop is. Now here's the thing. I have gone to that shop at least 100 times, and it's always been smooth sailing. I get on the highway tomorrow at 10 o'clock, and I'm going to say to myself, I'll be there in 15 minutes. I'm on the phone laughing, talking to my brother. He's telling me how ridiculous his students are, and his classes are, and his lectures are. And I'm going to tell him how ridiculous I am, period. And we'll both get a laugh. And in the back of my mind again, I'll be in Market Hall in about 10 minutes. And all of a sudden I realize that I have to slow down the car. I look a bit ahead and I realize it's congested. No one's moving. I turn on my Google map or map Google and it says traffic, 30 people died. A tree fell. And I have gone to the left lane, the fastest lane, so I have no access to any of the exits. Now, a pleasant trip all of a sudden turns most unpleasant. Things that never existed in my mind all of a sudden come up. How long is this going to take? I'm not even worried about the people who are dead. I just want to move. Talk about compassion and empathy. I don't even reflect about the fact that I am mortal. I too will die. Was it really worth driving to Market Hall for like an eclair that will eventually turn into bathroom stuff? None of those things. I'm stuck in traffic. I can't move. And Sophia tells me, so Dad, are we there? Almost. Soft spoken. Dad, it's been like 2 minutes. When are we moving? I told you. Almost. 5 minutes later. This sucks. Can I just walk home? Sit down. If you speak to me again, I'll slap you. And then agitation grows. And then the conversation with my brother that was filled with laughter and sarcasm turns into complaints and anger. I am now in the presence of the unknown. I have no idea how long it's going to take. All of a sudden, I hear the helicopters. And they're landing on top of the van. My van. As if things couldn't get worse. Now, when you talk about patience, Cassie, you're talking about me catching myself saying, Amir, didn't you speak about stoicism this morning in class? None of us have control over the functions of the world. Things come, things go, like the book of Job. The only thing you have control over are your emotions and the way you think. Those are the only two things, Amir. Okay. The problem, Cassie, is I'm a human being and I have a certain capacity beyond which I can't go. I was planning on a 15-minute trip. I've been stuck in the middle of the highway for 3 hours. And there is no apparent sign that this is going to end anytime soon. I didn't eat breakfast. Sophia didn't eat breakfast. So hunger all of a sudden becomes a factor. A daughter and father who were in a good relationship, now they're beginning to fight. And this day and age, in 21st century, all parents are paranoid. Is my screaming for the 2 hours in the car, is that going to lead her into a therapist office? Do I need to pay for my sins for the rest of my life with my daughter? So, first, you don't need to exercise patience if you know where you're going. Okay. Second, if the highway is not jammed, there is no need for patience. Third, if you're enjoying your travels, there is no need for patience. Patience is a thing that comes about inside you where you feel a good amount of negativity, negative emotions. You're angry, you hate where you are, you're confused, you have anxiety, you have frustration, and you don't really know what to do with them. Then you lash out, you express them in the most negative way. You hurt yourself, you hurt other people. Okay? And then once in a while you catch yourself. You say, Cassie, you know better. You just gave a lecture about, this and that. And then your daughter asks, and just because that few moments before you caught yourself, all of a sudden your volume goes down. I'm sure the traffic will be finished soon enough. But remember sloth. Laziness pushes you into forgetfulness. You can be mindful, you can be aware, you can kind of be composed for 10, 15, 20 minutes. Then again you break. And it's really like a yo-yo. You catch yourself, you lose yourself. In catching yourself, you exercise patience. In losing yourself, you lash out. Then you catch yourself, then you become patient. There's also a social factor to our ability to either be patient or to not have too much of it. A rabbit, those cartoons where a rabbit is racing a turtle, right? Well, rabbit is in the business is running really, really fast. They just don't know how to slow down. So on the way towards the finish line, the rabbit is running so fast, he's almost there. So he plays like ping pong, with himself. He kind of goes on a trip and comes back, and the turtle is just like way in the back, Because a turtle knows that she can't go as fast as a rabbit. She's never gone as fast as a rabbit. She has no ridiculous expectations from herself. She just goes slow. You and I live in a society where the short-term classes start Monday. I have students emailing me, I've had them since Monday, a few days ago, saying to me, I don't have access to the course content. And I just keep telling them, Baba, the class starts next week. But yeah, I want to know what the content is. It starts next week. I will drop you if you don't stop emailing me. And the point I'm trying to make is, you have access to everything, and it comes to you so quickly. It really, really does. It changes your brain chemistry and your brain wiring. And so when it comes to the big and meaningful stuff of life, where it demands that you just sit quietly and shut your mouth and just pay attention and observe, You and I don't have those abilities. Sometimes I sit with my dad and he tells me stories about the time where they didn't have a fridge. And so the summertime, it would get 130 degrees. And so his father would tell him to run to the shop that was like over there, and he would. And he would ask for like a cube of ice, big cubes. There were no plastic then. He would have to hold this huge cube, in bare hands, run to the house. And by the time he gets to the house, it's like a tiny little cup left of ice. And that tiny ice had to go inside this huge bucket of like boiling hot water, hoping that this tiny little cube would cool down the water so that everybody could have a sip. That's not our time. People were content drinking warm water, not boiling, certainly not cold, warm. And they were content with that. Today, if you go to a restaurant and you ask for water and there is no ice, you sue the place. So part of the difficulty with patience is, first, it's human nature. Okay? Second, expectations. Third, what sort of society you live in and what it does to you. How fast is it? How slow is it? I'll tell you kind of a different analogy. We went to Costco yesterday to buy some stuff, and we also decided to get some gas for the car. And so I look out there, and there is a huge line. I come from Iran. If you want to get gasoline for your car, you wait in a line for like 2 hours. If you want meat, 2 hours. If you want bread, 2 hours. Milk, 2 hours. Here, you go into Safeway at 10 o'clock in the morning. You grab your milk, your bread, you're out at 10:05. Do you really think that I have the capacity anymore to stand in any line, patiently wait for milk or gas? No. And despite the gas price at Costco being $3 cheaper, I said I am more than willing to pay $3 more just to go to Shell, in and out. This is good to know because you read all these books, or I read all these books, and my assumption is once I'm done reading these books, and when I should close my eyes and meditate for like a couple of minutes, I will have the capacity to be patient, even if like a hurricane is coming my way. Or exercise acts of compassion and forgiveness because I've read a few books. That's not my wiring. And when you know this, you're not going to expect crazy things from yourself. Because if you do expect crazy things from yourself, like you have the stamina to be patient for like weeks, then when you fall and when you fail, you're going to kind of do something to your self-image. You're going to hurt yourself. You're going to cause yourself unnecessary pain and frustration. And then you're going to get sad. You're going to get depressed. But all those aside, you exercise patience only when things are unpleasant. Only when things are unknown. Otherwise you wouldn't need them. You wouldn't need to exercise patience. One of the nice things about, it's kind of like, it's the Freudian id, okay, and the Freudian superego. The id wants things, and wants them fast, and wants them hard and intense. Because the things it desires are down here. The superego is up here. Now, I don't care what Freud says about God and philosophy and religion, okay? But what the superego does is that it wants things that are noble. It wants compassion, forgiveness, wisdom. It wants to taste God. Okay? The superego wants a lot of patience. But there is also this part of you that says, no, why? You know? And when you see someone having something, envy comes in. You know? I mean, look, the Buddha is able to deal with the crappiness of life. I'm not. He's able to be patient. I'm not. And the problem is when I see Buddha being that way and I can't be that way, I begin to envy him. I begin to resent him. I begin to kind of express anger towards him. Then I write some nasty things on my Facebook page about him. You know, you can only exercise patience when you catch yourself. When something about your superego says, look, see what the it is doing. Grab it, tame it, domesticate it. You know, and it's like anything else. The more you do this, the better you'll get. I mean, consider, for example, Daughter of Fire, where he looks at Irina and says, I mean, you would expect this man to be like, you know, very patient and forgiving and kind. He looks at her and says, marriage, it's awful. Children are more awful than marriage. You know, why would a sage who waits for years, you know the saying in the Gospel, knock and the door shall be opened unto you. So you sit there patiently, you knock and you knock and you knock, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. 20 years later, the door opens. It requires a lot of patience. So this man comes down and gets married. And all of a sudden he begins to fight with his wife, or begins to fight with his daughter or son. You've been sitting in solitude, knocking on this door for 20 years. You could endure that, but you can't endure your family. How's that possible? And that itself is quite significant. You could have patience for solitude, but you may not be able to have patience for people. Because in solitude you can find parts of yourself that you really, really enjoy. You know? You know, it's nice to be, I mean, it's kind of like someone like Brad Pitt or Al Pacino, or, you know, these high-powered actors. They're no longer in the state of poverty where they're just praying that someone gives them a role. Now they can pick and choose. You know, you write really, really well, Cassie. That requires you being a tortoise. You go very slow, you know, you go very, very slow. You look at every word, every sentence, every paragraph, and you go back and look at it again and again and again. And when you find that, well, this is near perfection, then you walk away. Then you go home, of course, and then you and your husband are having a conversation about something. And he says to you, Cassie, you were at the computer for like 5 hours working on a paragraph that's like 4 lines. We just begun this conversation. You're going nuts. What is wrong with you? Can't you just look at me like a paragraph? And you say, no, of course not. You're just a living, quacking, stupid human being. I can't tolerate you. And then you have to kind of exercise patience. Why? Because, well, you don't really want to be around him. I'm just, of course, just, being sarcastic, but it's true. You don't have to exercise patience in every aspect of life. Some things are just not worth being patient for. I don't want to wait for my wife who's an alcoholic to become sober. I'm just going to leave her. I'm not going to wait for my stupid man or husband to kind of sober up and become a bit more reflective. Who's got time for that? And if I have a student who just keeps asking stupid questions, I'd rather just entertain someone who's a bit more intelligent in the class. So I'm just not going to look at the direction of the stupid guy and look at the direction of a relatively intelligent fellow. The things you enjoy doing, you're very patient with. The things you don't like. And the more power you have in life, you can create for yourself a gated community where many of the troubles that visit other people don't visit you. We have no choice to be in life, and we have no choice but to suffer from life. But when you have power, instead of, playing with disasters every 5 minutes, you can have them visit you every once a week or twice a week for 15, 20, 30 minutes. My brother is going out with, we've had friends when we moved to Sacramento from Davis. We all worked at a gas station, Church's Fried Chicken. We went to school together, we were roommates. When my parents came here and bought the car wash, they would come visit us once in a while. So they got in touch with my brother, a couple of years ago. And they've been going out and having dinner once in a while. And my brother calls me, a few days before going to them and says, Amir, they've been asking about you and for you. They want you to come to these gatherings. We're going to go to Famous Kebab in Sacramento. We're going to sit, have some food, and we're going to just catch up. You haven't seen them for 30 years, man. Come. So-and-so has 5 kids. So-and-so has 20 kids. So-and-so is almost dead. Come, we'll talk about, how things were 50 years ago. And I sit back and I say, well, it'd be nice to see them. But why? I've lived without them for 30 years. I haven't missed them. I want to go back. I don't want to go back in time and talk about, how many people we kind of messed up when we were younger, and how many chickens we stole, and how much free gas we gave to people. Okay, so we get a few good laughs, so what? And my brother says, Amir, well, come there, and sometimes it may not go well, but you're a patient man. I said, well, damn, I would like to, spend my patience in a different arena of life. I'm not going to come over there for what? I haven't seen them for 30 years. I don't want to see them for the next 30 years. And that, in some ways it's because I am okay with my life the way it is. I don't need to see them. I don't need to go back in time and laugh about some stupid thing that we did at, Shell gas station in Del Paso Heights. Like closing the doors and packing the car with lots of chips and cereal.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure, I'm sorry, I was just
No, it was about responding to something you said.
Yeah, of course.
From my perspective, at least, it would seem that a person has to know themselves really well and has to have gotten to a place where the id is, I don't know, more tamed, so that it's not self-deception that's making them, say no, but something else inside them. Is that at all?
Impatience, the absence of patience is filled with emotions. Patience is filled with reason and rationality. So when you want to exercise patience, something about you comes forth and says, I'm not going to let these emotions out. And that's a difficult place to be because, we are enormously, we are emotional animals. We really are. I think David Hume was right, that reason is a slave to emotions. You use your reason to justify your emotions. I'm not feeling well, so I'm not going to work. Well, why aren't you feeling well? Well, I have a sore throat. Yes, because you ate all those Dorito chips. No, but I think it's the flu. No, God damn it, it's not the flu, it's the chips. But you use the reasons, do you see? Because you don't want to go to work because you hate the people you work for. So when you don't have patience, all these emotions are bubbling up. Frustration is a negative emotion. Anger is a negative emotion. Hatred is a negative emotion. And to stop them, you need to stop being emotional and be rational. That needs objectivity, detachment. I think if you find yourself in a relatively okay place in life, pick your battles. You have no choice but to find yourself in arenas that are unpleasant once in a while. And you know that they're going to kind of suck the life out of you. And you're going to lose, your patience. You're going to kind of express and then be sorry later. You can exercise impatience. You can be nasty and mean-spirited with people you know. All the people in this room, they're your friends. They'll forgive you. If on the other hand you go to your dean and you say something nasty to her because you're going to just lose it, well, that's the wrong place to allow your emotions to run wild. I think the most important component that's usually missing in conversations regarding patience is, how do you all of a sudden stop the flow of emotions and put a wedge of rationality and reason into it? It's difficult. The few places that you see Jesus lose it is because he got emotional. He was filled with doubt and insecurity and loneliness and abandonment. And he forgets who he is. Lucky for us, I suppose, that at least in these books he catches himself like just the next verse. Let this car pass by me. Oops, I made a mistake. I won the cup. Bring it on. there is a passage, there are many passages in the Quran as well as the Old Testament where someone goes to God and says, please, please, please do not test us. And I think it's all right, because speaking for myself, whenever I'm tested, I lose patience and I fail. And that's what makes power so intoxicating. You get drunk with it. Because you create environments where you are the bully and no one bullies you. And if you're the bully, you don't exercise patience. It's kind of like what Nietzsche said about slave morality. You bully people, then they express negativity, and you tell them, why don't you turn the other cheek? We were going to put Sophia in this piano class with this Persian woman. Supposedly she's very good. I think I told you the story. She kind of calls back and she says, I can no longer work with 5-year-olds or 6-year-olds or 10-year-olds. I'm only working with 15-year-olds and up, and they have to be very proficient. It's a good place to be. Because she says, I'm no longer young. I can't tolerate, doing the ABCDs anymore. It's just no longer me. And when someone says that to you, in some ways they're saying, I don't really need your money. I'm not that ambitious to say to myself, I am very, very good and I can make your child play the piano great. I know my place. I know what I can and can't do. There is no reason, I think, if you've come to realize certain things about yourself, to force yourself to be patient about things or about people who you don't find much value in. I don't find the traffic valuable enough. You know, that, who was a Vietnamese guy who died recently, that teacher, Teach Tat Han, Mon Khan. You know, his first book, what, Mindfulness at Every Step or something. You know, and he has like this story about sitting in traffic in New York, and he says, well, every time you're about to kind of go crazy, look at the license plate and just enjoy the way the numbers are written. That's such a stupid thing to say. You know, your life being spent in traffic day in and day out, you know, has zero value unless you have like Jesus Christ sitting in the back seat as a customer. You know, most of the people who sit in your cab are stupid, or, you know, business people, rush hour. It's awful. We had a poet, Amir. He says, I don't know what to do with people who just smile or laugh. There isn't really much funny out there. You know, he has a point. He's a 70-year-old man who's a poet. He thinks. I mean, sure, he's known to be a bit of a grouch, you know. And he says, I don't want to spend my time in gatherings where people just sit and talk rubbish and laugh about stupid things. That's not how I want to waste my time. You know, and he's not that ridiculous to say, well, you know, I read somewhere in Daughter of Fire where Bhai Sahib told Irina, go sit amongst the stupid and the foolish and just be patient with them. You know, if you have any common sense, and if you value your time and you value your youth and your life, you would never do that.